Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bet Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. He is my co-host this weekend. We welcome back into the program Dillon Atkinson. Dillon, good afternoon. Not good morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Paul.
How are you today?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself, man?
Doing pretty well. I'd be doing a lot better if the Orioles had managed to hit with anybody in scoring position or anybody on base at all today. But that's a story for a few minutes from now. Sorry that we are late this afternoon. Just had some connection issues, not on our end, but through Facebook itself. But we are live and ready to go here on a beautiful Sunday afternoon in the Baltimore area. Today's show brought to you by Classic 5 Golf. If you want to improve your golf game or learn how to play for the first time, the Baltimore Golf Academy has fun instructional programs for the beginner golfer to everyday players. The Baltimore Golf Academy can take your game to the next level. So enroll today at BaltimoreGolfAcademy.com. All right. I'm wondering how many times I have said on this show that the Orioles, or not the Orioles, but how many times I've said on the show since we moved to 5 o'clock, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition. Because I did it last week, caught myself, did it this week, caught myself. I wonder if those were the first 2 times that I caught myself saying good morning. Because I'm so used to doing it for the previous 5 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you'll stop doing that once the Orioles start winning on a Sunday. I don't know.
Oh, my gosh. So last year, it seemed like the Orioles always lost in some crap way on a Friday, right? Whether it was by just extreme blowout or blowing a game or going 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position, some way, shape, or form, the Orioles would lose on a Friday, and then we'd have to talk about it on a Saturday. They could have 7 games in 1 week and only lose 1 game that week, and it would have been on a Friday.
Yep.
If we moved to Sunday, and of course, no Jordan Westburg in the lineup. Gunnar Henderson still on a rehab assignment. The whole team decides that they want to get on base, but then not hit once they do get on base. And the Orioles lose a ball game to the Toronto Blue Jays 3-1 today. And let's get right on into this, Dillon. Tomoyuki Sagano making his debut in the majors and for the Baltimore Orioles today and got off to frankly, a terrible start. He walked the first. This is a guy who walked 16 batters in the 158 in the third innings in the NPB last year. Walked the first batter he faced, Bo Bichette, on 4 pitches today, and then falls behind. What the hell's his name? The really good guy whose dad's in the Hall of Fame, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. falls behind him 2-1. He threw 6 of his first 7 pitches for balls. You fall behind a guy like Vladdy, probably not going to be a good thing. He ended up getting him to line out to right field. You walk the leadoff hitter in the first inning. It comes back to bite you generally. Runners on second and third. George Springer comes up to the plate, laces a base hit into right center field to drive in 2 runs, and that was the difference in the ball game. The Toronto Blue Jays went 1 for 5. The runners in scoring position today. They had 1 hit, the George Springer 2-run single in the first inning. The Orioles lost 3-1. Now look, I'm not going to lament about the pitching. In today's game, they gave up 3 runs. Tomoyuki Sagano only went 4 innings. He went 4 innings, allowed 4 hits, 2 walks, 2 runs. But he comes out of the game with cramping in both of his hands. We learned it after the fact. And the bullpen came in, and they only gave up 1 more run the rest of the game, starting in the 5th inning. And that was an 8th inning home run. I'm sorry. Was it 8th inning? Yeah, 8th inning home run allowed by CNL Perez.
I think it was 7th inning.
7th inning. Was it the 7th inning?
Yeah, because Brian Baker came in after that and finished the inning and then pitched the inning after that.
Right, but that was in the 8th inning. Because Perez came in and threw 1 pitch in the 7th inning and got out of the inning. Didn't he? Or was that in the 6th inning? That was the 6th inning.
That was the 6th inning.
That was the 6th inning. All right. Anyway, even still, CNL Perez had not given up a home run in his last 104 appearances in Orioles record. And he gives up a solo home run to lead off the 7th inning against the backup catcher who had 1 career home run coming in
2019.
Yeah, in 2019, one career home run in 2019, coming into this game, leadoff homer against CNL Perez.
If you're going to end an outstanding streak like that, that's really the way you have to end it, though. Is giving it up to someone who's really not going to hit a home run. There's really no other way around it. So,
yeah, it's like, how do you think that pitcher for, I can't remember who it was, the pitcher for the New York Mets in 2017 who gave up the walk-off home run to hammer in Hank Urrutia for his only career home run and not Bo Taco, which I called in the 7th inning, by the way.
Yes. I called it right when he came up to the plate. So I'll give you the win on this one.
Well, but before that game, my buddy and I, anytime we go to an Orioles game, we say who's going to home. We've been doing it since we were like 15 years old, right? And so I think I said Jones, Scope, Davis, and Urrutia. And I think that the only one that didn't homer that game was Chris Davis. And so it's the 7th inning, and my buddy says, all right, when is Urrutia going to homer? I said he's going to hit a homer in the 9th, and it's going to be a walk-off. And then he comes up in the 9th, hits a walk-off homer. Did not expect this show to go in the direction of Henry Urrutia's one career home run being a walk-off against the New York Mets in 2017. But it happened. And actually, it wasn't 2017. It was 2015. It was 2015.
Yeah.
It definitely was 2015 because I was seeing a girl who I had no business seeing in 2015. She was very mad that I went to the Orioles game instead of spending time with her that day. Anyway, and that was 2015 because she moved back to Florida. Anyway,
it sounds like you made the right decision.
Yeah, well, she's long gone. I think she has 2 kids now. I've got a kid. We're both married to other people, and
And you got to see a walk-off.
And I got to see a walk-off, but the only career home run from Hammer and Hank Urrutia, who I think is still twirling away in the Mexican League.
He is, and I was a huge apologist for Urrutia back in the day. I actually talked to him on a few occasions and got to talk to him about his whole defection from Cuba and stuff like that. It was really awesome. Great guy. I was rooting for him big time. Sad to see that was the only home run he hit in the big leagues.
Yeah, he was a big-time hitter for the Cuban national team. Just an incredible hitter for them. We talked about, and that's what we did back then when the Orioles' top prospects were like Cuban defectors. You know what I mean? When they weren't really in the international game at that point. And it just never panned out for Urrutia. But for everything I've heard, is that he's a hell of a nice guy. And so,
he is.
But anyway, apparently Tomoyuki Sugano is a really nice guy who couldn't pitch in the 5th inning today because of hand cramping. The bats, 9 hits, 2 walks, 9 left on base, 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. They had 2 runners on in the 1st, 3rd, 4th, I think 5th innings. Couldn't get anything done. We were wondering why Jordan Westburg wasn't in the lineup to start today. He's been arguably the hottest hitter on the team, has 3 home runs. I think he's one of 5 Orioles to have 3 home runs his first 3 games of the year. And we're like, there's no reason that Jorge Mateo should be starting 2 games in the series and Jordan Westburg should be on the bench. It came out after the game. They didn't say what the injury could be, what's hampering him, but they said that Brandon Hyde said Westburg was only available in an emergency today. He expects him to play tomorrow. I'm wondering if the back started barking at him again a little bit today.
Yeah, it could have been back barking at him, slept on something wrong, or maybe just ate some bad Canadian bacon. I don't know. But one way or another, Hyde said, he expects Westburg to be back in the lineup tomorrow, but did make it clear that he was only going to be used in an emergency situation, which in turn calmed me down a little bit because I was, 1, infuriated that Westburg wasn't in the lineup to start the game. And then 2, we didn't see Westburg for either of the 2 pinch hit opportunities in the 9th inning. And I was like, okay, if Gary Sanchez is out here pinch hitting for Colton Cowser, something's got to be wrong with Westburg.
Yeah. And which sucks because we're all looking at Jordan Westburg as being a catalyst for this offense hitting in the middle, whether he hit either 3rd or 4th in each of the first 3 games, hitting the 3 home runs. The guy's a natural born run producer, so to see him not start the 4th game, obviously we're all going to be upset about that. To learn that it was an injury situation, or maybe he was sick, maybe he got a 24-hour stomach bug. He could have just been throwing up, and then he felt better in the middle of the game, but they just wanted to keep him off his feet for a while. It could have been something as simple as that. My daughter woke up at 10 to 4 a.m. the other morning and throwing up everywhere. She threw up 2 more times. By the end of the day, she was feeling right as rain again. So it could have just been something like that, you know?
Sure.
Now, Brian Baker, scoreless appearance in his first game this year, game 1. And then today, gave up the ringing double to George Springer, but other than that, inning in a third. I'm sorry, was it inning in 2/3?
Inning in 2/3 because he struck out Vladdy looking, and then Santander looking, ended the inning, and then the 3 after that. So yeah.
And his 4 strikeouts in his inning in 2/3. They said that the stuff looks phenomenal. I was in the car dropping my daughter off so I could come do this show today, so I missed his appearance, but they said the stuff looks fantastic. He changed the grip on his curveball and on his changeup. He's throwing harder. He's getting more bite in his off-speed stuff, and looking the part. And look, I'll be the first one to tell you that I'm not a Brian Baker believer. But if Brian Baker's going to pitch like he did today, I can become a Brian Baker believer very quickly. How's that alliteration for you?
Oh. Last time I was on with you, you said you needed a full season of Brian Baker to make you a believer.
I did. And you know what? I'll just take some good pitching anywhere I can get it, because this Orioles starting rotation has not played the part to start. Zach Eflin picked up where he left off. 6 innings pitched. What was it? 2 hits? 1 hit. I think 1 hit. 2 earned runs. Was on a 2-run homer by apparently Superman Andres Gimenez, who is going to be the Oriole killer this year somehow. But yeah, Zach Eflin, 6 innings pitched, 2 earned runs. We're off and running. Orioles win opening day 12-2. They hit 6 home runs, trailing only the 2018 Dodgers, the 2019 Dodgers for most home runs on opening day. The next day they come out, Jackson Holiday hits a home run. They get out to a 2-0 lead, and they don't score again. They have 3 hits the entire game. 3 for 10 with runners in scoring position on Thursday. 0 for 2 on Friday, just not a lot of opportunities. And look, credit where credit's due. Kevin Gausman is a hell of a pitcher, and he was a finalist for the Cy Young 2 years ago. The Orioles know who Kevin Gausman is. We know who Kevin Gausman is, and he went out there and he shot on Friday night. Orioles lost that game 8-2. Then they come out last night. The Orioles win 9-5. Dean Kramer, 5 1/3. He gives up 5 earned runs. And look, Dean Kramer, he looked like early season Dean Kramer. Right. Generally speaking, he'll get off to the slow start. He'll have a 5 to 7 start stretch at some point in the season, usually the earlier part of the season, where he gets lit up. He then settles it down, and then the next thing you know, he's got a 3.5 ERA the rest of the year. So maybe that's what he's doing again. He gives up 5 runs yesterday, but the Orioles scored 9. They went 3 for 6 with runners in scoring position. 3 for 7 with runners in scoring position yesterday. They hit 3 more home runs, including 2 by Westy. Kowser's first. You're feeling good about it. And then they come out today. They score a run in the first inning. O'Hearn gets on base 3 times his first 3 plate appearances. You're feeling good about things. They score on a wild pitch in that first inning where we feel like we're off to the races again, and then they don't do diddly squat the rest of the game. Getting sidetracked here, what we were really talking about is a starting rotation. And Sagana struggled in the first today. Nerves. Sweating his tail off, hands cramp up. He throws 1 warm-up pitch in the 5th inning. It has to come out. Luckily, it was only hand cramps, but the rotation through 4 games, Dillon, probably leaving a lot to be desired. Charlie Morton, he looked 41 years old in game 2. He did. 3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 4 earned runs. I think he had 1 strikeout. The thing that we were talking about in the offseason is that you're free agent addition pitchers this year. You added Sagano, 35 years old. You added Morton, 41 years old. You added Kittredge to the bullpen, 35 years old. You added Kyle Gibson very, very late in spring training, 37 years old. Right? And then you have Albert Suarez, who's 35 years old. Well, Gibson's had extended spring training. Kittredge is on the IL after arthroscopic knee surgery. Sagano had to come out of his first start with hand cramps. Albert Suarez is on the IL with shoulder inflammation. He hit 89 miles an hour on his fastball the other day, and hasn't looked great. It didn't look great in spring training really at any point.
Yeah.
And Charlie Morton got lit up. So these are your guys that you brought in that are 35 plus, and none of them have done what you needed them to do. Now, look, it's early; it's 4 games.
Yeah.
But what are we seeing with that rotation right now? How are you feeling? Are you nervous heading into the home opener against the Red Sox tomorrow?
I'm definitely nervous. I'm not. I'll say this: I'm not any more nervous than I was before opening day in Toronto. It's the same level of nervous. There's nothing that's happened in these last 4 games that has increased my nervousness. It's already been there. I'll say that.
Sure.
So I'm not going to draw too much off of 1 game sample sizes for each of these guys, but yeah, Morton certainly looked like a 41-year-old out there. Aside from his velocity, he was out there pumping 95 to 97 somehow. I don't know how he was doing that, but
I'm not going to complain about that.
What's that?
I said I'm not going to complain about him throwing 95 to 97.
No. So I mean, we'll see how it goes for Morton from here on out, but I do wonder how short of a leash a guy like that would have in this rotation on a 1-year deal. If he has 5, 6, 7 more starts like that, how quick are they going to pull the plug on that, or cut the axe?
Yeah, cut the axe, which we learned does mean that Dillon used it correctly. It is a phrase, a term.
I just didn't know it.
Yeah, but cut the axe is a thing that people say. Apparently, not many people, but it's a thing that people say that it does mean basically cut the cord. Essentially, now,
Yeah.
41 years old for Charlie Morton, 3 innings, 7 hits, 4 earned runs. You look at Max Scherzer yesterday. He had to leave the game after 45 pitches with a thumb injury that's been nagging him. He's on the IL. Actually, no, it wasn't the thumb. He has a right lat strain. He's probably out for a month at a minimum. He went on the IL. Justin Verlander, 42 years old, and in yesterday's game, he went 5 innings, 6 hits, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, 2 earned runs. So you got a couple of guys, 41 or older, pitching in the major leagues right now. 2 of them not great, and the other one looking like looking like the Hall of Famer that he is, in Justin Verlander. So very interesting to say the least. But you're not going to panic. Not 4 games in. I'm going to give everybody their due until this starts to mount and it starts to snowball. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Nobody needed to pitch better than Sagano and Morton. Nobody needed to pitch better because those are the 2 guys that you brought in for your rotation. Morton getting lit up. I mean, already thinking, this guy's 41 years old. He was on the cusp of retirement and decided he's going to give it one more go. And then, he comes out there. Pumping 95 to 97 is awesome, but not when you can't get out of the 3rd inning at 875, 80 pitches? You know what I mean? And then Sagano with the hand cramps. Look, it was clear he was nervous. Both of his parents were there to watch his big league debut. He was dripping sweat, and they were indoors. He was clearly nervous. Get that man a banana or 2. Make sure he drinks a half a gallon of water before he goes out to pitch the next time he starts. And let's see what he has in the next start. I believe that Sagano's going to have the lowest ERA on this staff. Now, it's going to really suck if that ERA is like 3.95, but it's the lowest on the staff. But I believe he's going to have the lowest ERA on the staff. I have a lot of faith in Sagano. You don't have the success he had without knowing how to pitch. And I just think, now that he's kind of got the nerves out of the way, he can come out his next start. If he comes out, against, what is it? Is he won't be facing Boston. If he comes out of Kansas City next weekend and he gives you 5 innings of 1-run ball, 6 innings of 2-run ball, you're going to feel a lot better about it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's just not a great look when those were the 2 signings for your rotation and they did what they did. But we're not going to beat them up over it. Not through the first 4 games. It's still, even a guy like me is willing to just kind of, let laying dogs lie for right now. Not gonna cut the axe yet.
Hey, I saw you on Twitter in the 2nd game of the season saying, "Why am I being the voice of reason?"
Mm-hmm. Oh, people absolutely flipping out. This team's already home run or bust. They hit 6 home runs yesterday and then 1 today, and they can't score otherwise. And it's just like, we're 4 games in, and there's no Gunnar Henderson, who, by the way, had 2 hits, including a 3-run Oppo Taco today. But we'll get into that in a little bit. It's so early in the year. I think that the 2023 Orioles, weren't they like 5-4 to start the year, and then they won 101 games? You got to let these guys get going. The good news is that Adley Rutschman looks like Adley Rutschman again. Westbrook's tearing the cover off the ball. Ryan O'Hearn's tearing the cover off the ball right now. Jackson Holiday, as bad as he looks on his strikeouts, when he's not swinging and missing, he's making solid contact. He had a hit in 3 of the 4 games in Toronto, including his first home run. So I'm not too worried about him. I am a little worried about Kowser sliding head first in the. He would have beaten it out if he hadn't slid. Never slid. I've slid into first base, but let's be real here. It slows you down, and there's more risk for injury. Don't slide into first base. Bent the thumb back today, and he was out on a very, very close bang play that they challenged, and it did not get overturned. But he has 2 hits this year, one being a long home run lead off the game yesterday, but still looks like he's struggling mightily with off speed and breaking balls.
Yeah, and I'm confident that Kowser's going to turn it around. That he'll be fine if everything's okay here with his hand and wrist on that injury. Hopefully, it's nothing serious there. But I will say on head first slides to first base, absolutely hated it today, and I hate it in today's game. I used to be a fan of head first slides into first base when there was no replay review, because I used to be a believer that a head first slide would cause some level of deception to an umpire on who got there first at first base. Now, it doesn't matter if there's deception or not; they're just going to review it. So there's literally no point in doing it now unless you're avoiding a tag. That's it.
Literally the only time that you slide into first base where it's acceptable is if the throw pulls the first baseman off the bag, he's going to tag you. You're trying to slide under the tag. If you can get the foot into the bag, but it can't be head first. It's got to be foot first. And if you get the foot into the bag before they can lay that tag on you, that's when it's worth it. Not when you're just trying to beat a guy to the bag, because it's going to slow you down. It's been proven. It slows you down. Just especially if you're doing that at second base, it's fine because you're trying to get there, and you also you can't go in running, because if you do beat him running, you're going to go through the bag. At first base, it's the only bag where you can. First base and home plate, only 2 bases where you can run through the bag. So stay on your effing feet, beat it out, and then you're still on first base. And we probably didn't just lose our Rookie of the Year finalist, Gold Glove caliber left fielder for a 15-day IL stint. I mean, they said that he bent that left thumb back. You remember Austin Hayes doing the same things, and that's why he started wearing the oven mitt, sliding into second base head first, bent the thumb back. It cost him the start of the 2018 season. So this is 2019 season. This is a situation where you're doing more harm than good. Stay on your feet, you get the run to the bag. You could have beaten it out, and then the Orioles have a base runner in a 2-1 ball game at that point. It's a big no-no. Also, a big no-no is gambling. If you have a gambling problem, if you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. That's 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. Dillon, some chatter in the chat box. First, AJ. Dillon! This dude loves you. The president of the Dillon Atkinson fan club, AJ Mukherjee, loves to have you on the show. We do too. AJ also says Poteet and Mountcastle is being dangled on a platter. I like it, but only based on the return. Better not be Trevor Rogers. AJ says, also Mountie didn't really match the Jays this time like he usually does. I noticed. Maybe the rumors are true. I'm going to get to that here in a second. But the rumors that he's talking about, Daniel Pitts. According to reports, the Orioles have put out notice to other teams that Mountcastle is available in a trade. I'm surprised he made it to opening day, not because he's a bad player, but because he has value and we don't have a place for him. Well, his place is their everyday first baseman. They do have a place for him, but they don't have a place for Kobe Mayo. And they don't want to play Ryan O'Hearn at first base every single day, because even though Mountcastle's missed a couple of balls in the dirt they had to dig out, O'Hearn's missing 90% of those. Mountcastle's a 2-time Gold Glove finalist. So I haven't seen this report that he's being dangled, but have you seen this, Dylan?
Yep, it came from Bob Nightingale from USA Today. He put it in his report first thing this morning at 6 a.m. He had a long article and just had a bunch of tidbits at the bottom of his article. And one of them was that the Orioles let teams know that Mountcastle is available in trade. Nothing's close right now, but they are open to moving Mountcastle to create space for Kobe Mayo.
Okay. Now, Mountcastle had a 116.7 mile per hour base hit today. I think he had the second hardest batted ball of his career yesterday, or not yesterday, he didn't play yesterday, but 2 days ago. Ryan Mountcastle tore the cover of the ball. It was the hardest hit ball by an Orioles since Mark Trumbo in 2017. That's how hard he hit the baseball tonight. Had a couple of big strikeouts today in big situations. It's gotta suck, like being around your boys. I mean, he was renting that house down in Sarasota, and he was roommates with Kowser, Westberg,
Yep.
Eflin, Gunnar. Like all these guys were living together in this house, and now he knows that he's being dangled in trade proposals. That's got to be tough on a player
Yeah.
to know that maybe his days are numbered, hanging out with all his best friends.
Oh yeah, for sure. And really, it kind of takes me back to, you look at a guy like Ryan Mountcastle, like Cedric Mullins, and like Austin Hayes and Santander. Elias was enjoying their company while they were under team control and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But the fact of the matter is, none of those guys are Elias guys.
Yeah,
They were all brought in or drafted or whether regular draft or Rule 5 draft by Dan Duquette, and Elias kind of took them over. So it's not really that much of a surprise that Elias wants to move forward with his guys, but it does got to suck for a guy like Mountcastle who has great friendships with multiple guys all over the clubhouse, and just know, yeah, I might not be here in a couple days. This is weird.
you sound like our Russian comrades. Ryan Mountcastle. He's Mountcastle. Yeah, I look. I've always been a big Ryan Mountcastle fan. Following his career when he was in the minors, he just seemed to just hit everywhere. Comes up, he hits like 333 in his cup of coffee in the 2020 truncated season. Then comes out, finishes top 3 in Rookie of the Year, voting with 33 home runs in 2021. And then the next year, a little bit of injury, a little bit of ineffectiveness. He only hits 22 home runs. And then in 2023, he hit 18 home runs. He was injured a little bit, and that wall really took away his power. And then you go to last year, injured, ineffectiveness with the power because of the wall. I think it was in his head. He hits 13 home runs. And this year doesn't have one yet. They played 4 games, but now he's being dangled in trade rumors. I like Ryan Mountcastle, and I'm really nervous for what happens at first base defensively when he's not here. Because I think that, look, if the Orioles are going to make a trade, it's going to be Ryan Mountcastle. It seems like, especially if they're looking to bring in, they're looking to make room for Coby Mayo. Now, here's the other thing: why is Heston Kjerstad here? Why have they not traded Heston Kjerstad if they're not going to play him? They told us all spring Heston's going to get a great opportunity to get a lot of at bats this year. Blah blah freaking blah, Dillon. He has 1 start and 1 pitch. He pinch hit today, right? Yeah. 1 start and 1 pitch hitting appearance and 1 defensive replacement appearance this year. Now look, Ryan O'Hearn's hitting the baseball, right? He's batted 3rd or 4th of all 4 games this year. He's hitting the baseball. Heston Kjerstad deserves an opportunity to play. And it's this whole back and forth on social media and fans saying, well, is he better than O'Hearn or O'Neill? Well, there's your answer. That's why he's not playing. How do we know? How are you ever going to know if he plays once, twice a week? He's not. He shouldn't be a 4th outfielder. He should be in the starting lineup, in my opinion.
Well, that could be a reason why they're dangling Mountcastle in trade talks as well, because if you move Mountcastle, that pretty much solidifies that you're going to play O'Hearn at first base more, and you can start putting Kjerstad in that DH spot a lot more often.
Yeah, I get that. But now you're talking about O'Hearn playing first base until Coby Mayo gets called up, or do you trade Mountcastle and immediately bring up Coby Mayo? And have you seen the hitch in the swing that Zach Moore's talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For me, if he's got that hitch in the swing, is he ever going to hit at the big league level? Doesn't mean they can't fix it, but you have confidence he can get up here and hit the ground running.
Yeah, and that's the big thing is I feel like if they're going to bring up Coby Mayo, it's going to be kind of easing him into it type of thing, especially with how his September went last season, spring training went for him this year. Could be the hitch, could be in his head, could be a combination of both. So I have a feeling when they eventually do bring him up, it's not going to be hit the ground running, you're our guy. It's going to be kind of ease him in here, day off there, ease it back in there. Kind of like what they're doing with the Kjerstad right now, where Mayo is more than likely going to be kind of in a platoon role to start out. whether that's platooning with O'Hearn or platooning with Kerstad, whatever it may be. Just go, you're a lefty masher, go mash lefties, even though that's not really what you do. Go do that, and if you get rolling with that, we'll start moving in here more.
Yeah, I mean, it could be as simple as that. Just an interesting situation to learn. To me, he's the only guy in the organization that can play the big league level and play a solid defense. When you're talking about a starting rotation, that they probably are going to pitch through a lot of contact. You're going to need some good defense behind you. Taking away a good defensive first baseman doesn't make a ton of sense to me. But neither does keeping a guy like Kobe Mayo at the minor league level, right? He's already proven that he can mash minor league pitching. He's got to get up here and prove he can match major league pitching, just like Heston Kjerstad has to. If you're going to have Kobe Mayo and Heston Kjerstad on your big league roster at some point this year, they both need to be playing pretty much every day. If they show you in an expanded role that they can't do it, well, then you have your answer. But you can't just say that these guys aren't as good as the guys that are already playing in front of them, because we don't know. We haven't seen it. You can't make a blanket statement like that. They need the opportunity to play. And it's kind of like it's the double-edged sword, because they're not getting an opportunity to play. But if they were getting an opportunity to play, it's probably not on a contending ball club. This was 2021 or even 2022. Those guys are probably starting at first base and in right field for the Baltimore Orioles. But it's 2025. They've won 275 games the last 3 years. They're trying to get back to a World Series for the first time since 1983. You understand why they're not getting an opportune playing time, but they still need it. They've got to be able to prove it at some point. You can't just say, well, maybe we'll give them an opportunity, or maybe we'll wait for an injury. They've got to get the opportunity to prove it now. And I'd rather know early in the year that they can't do it rather than wait till we really need that because of that injury in the second half when it's crunched.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of like you said, I mean, it's tough to get these guys every day at bats and experiment with them, so to speak, when you're trying to go win ball games and go for a playoff push. That's tough to do. But if there's any time to do it, guys coming out of spring training, they're playing less and less in spring training on back-to-back days and stuff like that. So coming out of the gate to start the season, maybe guys do need days off more often than not. So maybe that is the time to go ahead, work Kjerstad in more, work Mayo in more, and stuff like that, and start trying to formulate your answers earlier than like you said, when you really need them.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to see what's going to happen here. I don't really want to see Mountcastle get traded. I understand if they do, though. We'll see how that happens. For now, he's on the roster and playing first base just about every day for the Baltimore Orioles. And speaking of that, the bats. 6 home runs, plus out 14 hits, 12 runs on opening day. The next day, 3 hits, over 2 with runners in scoring position. They scored 2 runs. The next day, 9 runs on 12, 13 hits, 3 for 7 with runners in scoring position. They got 3 more home runs. And then today, 9 hits, 2 walks, but 9 left on and 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Last year, the Orioles' biggest bugaboo offensively was not getting the job done with runners on base. They were abysmal with runners in scoring position. Conversely, in 2023, runners in scoring position, they were one of the best teams in the league. They hit something like 270 with runners in scoring position. I believe that this offense is one of the best in all of baseball. I believe that they have the best offense in the American League. The Yankees and their torpedo bats notwithstanding. I think that they have a really well-rounded lineup. We got to see these guys, kind of round into form. Again, only 4 weeks in, got a lot of young guys who are still trying to figure out who they are as ball players. What you saw from this 4-game series, Dillon, what's your level of trust or your level of concern with the Orioles lineup? And keep in mind, Gunner's not here, probably will be by Thursday.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is you went and split in Toronto, a team that you expect to go down there and beat, or go up there and beat, but you didn't have Gunnar Henderson, and you had a couple off games with the bats. You had one game where your pitching didn't suffice. I mean, I don't really have that big of a concern with the offense long term. It really, for right now, because it's so early in the season, 4 games in, I just saw it today as they didn't get it done. Mm-hmm. It's an isolated incident. You're going to have days like that where you just simply don't get the job done. And I think today was just one of those days. Now, if this continues to be a problem as we go throughout April here, and as they come home for opening day, or the home opener, I should say, this continues to be a thing, then maybe more concern will start to come in. But right now, I'm just treating this as isolated incident. They just didn't get it done.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We can talk about how well this team is really really deep, and they've got guys who can start for any major league team at every position and at every backup position. I mean, legitimately, Heston Kjerstad could start for half the teams in the league. Ramon Arias could start for half the teams in the league. Jorge Mateo could start for a really bad baseball team, or apparently a really good Baltimore Orioles team because Brandon Hathaway loves him. Ramon Laureano could be the starting center fielder for a lot of baseball teams in this league, and they're the bench players. But all that being said, you're not replacing Gunnar Henderson. There is nobody on this roster that replaces Gunnar Henderson. You can move Jackson Holliday over to shortstop and try to replace your superstar shortstop with a superstar shortstop. He ain't Gunnar Henderson. He may end up being better than Gunnar Henderson, but right now he's not Gunnar Henderson. You're not going to replace this guy. Luckily, he started playing minor league games immediately as soon as the season started. Look, the Orioles just weren't comfortable bringing him up to Toronto with them. They wanted to get more at bats. He's getting those at bats. I believe he has a hit in every game for Norfolk. He had 2 today, including the Apataco home run. That bell's going to ring for him on Thursday, I believe, against the Red Sox. I believe he'll be out there starting at shortstop, and I believe he'll start at shortstop 98% of the time the rest of the way. You know,
Yeah.
and that's I just think that's what we're looking at with Gunnar Henderson. You have to get him back. It sets the tone for the rest of the team. He becomes your leadoff hitter, although I think that's Jackson Holliday's job by June, maybe July. But he becomes your leadoff hitter. Then you can keep Westberg batting third, O'Neill batting fourth, but then you can have Kowser hit 5th or 6th. You can have O'Hearn hit 5th or 6th. It really just sets up the rest of your lineup the way it's supposed to be set up. You know, instead of having Cedric Mullins batting 5th. God loves Ceddy. 2 home runs on opening day. He's gotten off to a really nice start for the Orioles. He's not a 5. He's either a leadoff hitter or he's a 7 through 9 hitter. Not a 5.
Yeah. And I think that was more so, and I think we should have seen the writing on the wall of something being off with Westberg today, because if you recall, that lineup came out really late today.
It did.
For a 1:00 game. It didn't come out until I think less than an hour to game time, right?
So 1:37 first pitch, and the lineup came out at 12:47.
Right. So with all that going down, I feel like we should, and for us being upset that Westberg wasn't in there, I feel like we kind of should have seen the writing on the wall that something was up, but just simply didn't. So I think that was just a situation of Westberg was in Hyde's lineup and then came to him and said no after BP and said, no, I can't do it today. And then the easiest fix from there, from Hyde's perspective, probably is, okay, Mateo starts at short, goes to the bottom of the lineup, everyone else bump up one.
Yeah. That's probably what happened, to your point. And I'm just hoping he was sick. I mean, the way that they talked about it, they didn't disclose that it was an injury. I'm just hoping that he had some kind of stomach bug. I don't know what they're famous for up in Toronto, but whatever. Maybe he went to a sushi shop and got some bad sushi. I don't know. Hopefully he'll be back in the lineup tomorrow. And if he was already feeling better midway through the game, and they were just like, let's take it easy today, try and win this ball game without you, then maybe that's what happened. If they said he was only available in an emergency, then I have to imagine it was more likely an illness than an actual injury. So if he's in the lineup tomorrow, we'll feel a lot better about things. And you're absolutely right. I think when we saw that the lineup came out so late and Westberg wasn't in it, it's like there's no reason that he wouldn't be in the lineup unless there's an injury or an illness. It just makes too much sense that that's what happened. So today's show brought to you by Glenn Clark Radio. Did you miss anything from Glenn Clark Radio this week, including conversations with Brad Brock, J.J. Hardy, and new Ravens quarterback Cooper Rush? Find them all now in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature at PressBoxOnline.com. And as always, watch and listen to GCR every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. at PressBoxOnline.com/radio, or right here on Facebook and YouTube. And Dillon, let's get into some of these injury updates. We already talked about Gunnar. Homer to the opposite field today. Eligible to come off the IL Thursday. It seems like that's the likely scenario. Grayson Rodriguez, he threw a bullpen in Toronto. Basically, this is what he did. He did 2, they called them box sessions. So he had 2 side sessions from inside of 60 feet over this weekend. Then he had a light bullpen, as Brandon Hyde said, a light bullpen from regular distance today. So he's trending in the right direction. It's like spring training just started for him, so he's probably not going to be ready to pitch on a rehab assignment until the end of April at the earliest, I'd imagine. But the Orioles can get Grayson Rodriguez back, and he's Grayson Rodriguez by the second week of May. Then I think that we're in a good spot there with him. Andrew Kittredge, he threw in the outfield alongside Grayson over the weekend. Just long tossing, nothing serious. From what I heard, apparently he hasn't been 60-day IL because the surgery went really well. There wasn't a ton of scar tissue, not a ton of swelling. So hopefully the Orioles can maybe get him back at some point in May rather than in June or after the All-Star break like we were originally anticipating. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the earlier that you can get Kittredge back, the best, and for Grayson, it's kind of, I've been going into the season with zero expectations for Grayson Rodriguez just to protect my own sanity,
Sure.
So any good news is good news, so I'm not going to sit here and say, okay, he's starting his spring training now, I expect him back, mid-May, something like that. I'm not going to hold out any hopes for anything, but I'm just going to keep reading the updates and hope everything goes well, and hopefully we get to see Grayson at some point this season. And when he comes back, finish the season healthy. And because when Grayson Rodriguez is healthy, this Orioles rotation needs him.
Yeah. 16 out of his 20 starts last year, his ERA was 2.53. And the other 4 starts was above 10. He gave you 3 earned runs or less in 16 of his 20 starts this past season. That's a guy who's running in the form of an ace. And then you talk about you're not banking on anything from Grayson Rodriguez for your own sanity. I'm not banking on anything from Tyler Wells or Kyle Bradish for my own sanity. I just can't expect them to throw any pitches in anger at any point this year. If they do and they're effective, keyword here being effective, they can come out and throw and suck. I don't want to see that because then it's going to be the sky is falling here in Baltimore, and we don't need that. If they're able to come out and be the pitchers that we saw before, Bradish, a Cy Young caliber starting pitcher, that's your ace if he's right. Tyler Wells, a back-end bullpen presence, that's your setup guy if he's right? So then you look at those guys, you've got the Mountain, you've got the Rock. I don't know what they would call Tyler Wells. He's 6'8" also. I don't know what you call him, but you've got the Mountain, the Rock, and maybe the Peninsula. Who the hell knows? But if those guys come back and they're right, that's awesome. But I'm not banking because we saw John Means come back. He made 8 starts after Tommy John surgery. He needed a second Tommy John surgery. So can't bank on anything just because of that. But yeah, look, if you can get Grayson Rodriguez back, he pitches really well to the rest of the year. Bradish comes back and he becomes that dude again. And then you're going into next year. And let's say Caden Povich comes out and he's a dude. And I think he's going to – I expect him to have a good season. The fact that he isn't walking guys now, that he's found his control, I expect Caden Povich to be a legitimate big league starter for the Orioles. And if you go into next year where the top 3 guys in your starting rotation are under team control and their names are Kyle Bradish, Grayson Rodriguez, and Caden Povich, I think that bodes really well for this team now and in the future. Then you add somebody. You add an ace caliber pitcher in the offseason to add to that rotation. Then we're talking about a team that's going to probably win the American League East and can legitimately make a claim to be a World Series favorite. Right now, I don't know that they can.
Right.
But the expectations that Grayson comes back, first get back, show that you can pitch the rest of the season healthy and be that dude. But with the new delivery from the new arm stocks, you can take some of the stress off of that lat teres area. And if you can pitch effectively, and not just effectively, but be that dude that you're supposed to be, being a former first-round pick, then that's going to be awesome. But we got to see you get back first and then do it, right? So
yeah.
Today's show brought to you by the latest edition of Press Box. The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Orioles owner David Rubenstein sits down for a Q&A with Stan McMahon Charles and Glenn Clark. Also inside with me, Orioles Tyler O'Neill, as well as college lacrosse players from around the state. You can find the new issue all throughout the region, including at 60 World Farm Stores. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. All right, Dillon, let's go around the AL East. Starting in Boston, the Boston Red Sox lost to the Texas Rangers today 3-2. The Rangers used home runs from Wyatt Langford and Adolis Garcia, and 5 shutout innings from Jacob deGrom and his return to action following Tommy John surgery to take down the Red Sox 3-2. The Red Sox losers of 3 out of 4 to the Texas Rangers, who are, in my opinion, AL West favorites this year. So the Red Sox 1-3 as they hit the Baltimore for the Orioles home opener tomorrow. The New York Yankees, they got back at it again today. 9 home runs with those torpedo bats yesterday, and they picked up where they left off. Aaron Judge with another home run. Ben Rice with a home run. Jazz Chisholm with 2 home runs. The Yankees hit 4 more home runs today. They have 15 on the year as they routed the Brewers 12-3. Brewers 0-3, Yankees 3-0. Apparently, it doesn't freaking matter how bad the Yankees rotation is with all those injuries because they're just going to hit 8 home runs every game with their new legal or illegal or who the hell knows bats, and get things done to stay atop the American League East. And then finally, the Tampa Bay Rays taking on the Colorado Rockies in Dunedin at George Steinbrenner Field. My computer's going really slowly right now. The Rays used a 4-run 6th inning, and they got their runs via Brandon Lau hit with a 2-run homer. Yandy Diaz a double. Lau drove in 2 today. RBIs from Kevin Laro as a pinch hitter. Caballero with an RBI, and Ben Wortvet with an RBI as well. DeLuca from the 9-hole 3 for 4 today as the Rays took down the Rockies 6-4 to go to 2-1. They are in second place in the American League East, a half game above the Orioles and the Blue Jays, as if that matters right now. Bataj Bradley went 6 innings of 2-run ball, striking out 7 and walking none for the Rays in the victory today. We haven't really talked about how you feel, Dillon, about the competition in the American League East. I'm not a big believer in the Red Sox. I don't think that adding 2 let me watch my words here, because anytime I say stuff like this, it comes back to bite me in the ass. 2 guys who have a lot to prove in Lucas Giolito and Walker Buehler, adding them to the starting rotation. And Garrett Crochet, a lot of pundits picking Garrett Crochet to win the AL Cy Young. He had Tommy John surgery very early in his career. He only threw about 120, 130 innings last year. They're expecting him to take that jump. He's got to post up every 5 days for this team and make it through the end of the year. I think there's a lot of question marks there. I'm not necessarily a big believer in you can get all the Aroldis Chapmans in the world, and all you really get is this guy who beats up on women and is past his prime. So I don't think that there's also turmoil, right? Rafael Devers wants to play third base every day. Alex Cora saying he is the DH for the Boston Red Sox. You added Alex Bregman. Is Trevor Story going to be healthy? Is Tristan Casas going to be healthy and play a solid first base for you? Jared Duran is a dude in the outfield, but he's also apparently a hate monger as he yells out, some homophobic epithets at the plate when people boo him. There's a lot of turmoil and a lot of question marks around the Boston Red Sox. The Blue Jays, look, they could be really feast or famine. They have some guys in their lineup in Bichette and Vladdy and Santander and George Springer. And apparently now Andres Jimenez, who just can tear the cover off the baseball. They've got some dogs in the starting rotation. One of those dogs has already been put down in Max Scherzer. Bassett, he had a 4.19 ERA last year. Year before that, 3.5 ERA. Which version of him are you going to get? Today was a good start for him. A lot of traffic, but he managed to wade through the waters and kind of get out of trouble anytime that he got into trouble. Kevin Gausman looked like he's back to being that dude again. The Rios got lit up by the Orioles. And then Tampa Bay, they somehow always find a way to win 90 games. They always find a way to win 90 games. They always somehow have really great pitching. They got good news on Shanahan or Shane McClanahan that it's just kind of an elbow bruising. It's nothing serious in his throwing elbow. But you look at the American League East as a whole, and how do you feel about the Orioles' chances in the East based on what you've seen, not just through the first 4 games, but what you know about these teams coming into this season?
I think their chances are good, but that's not me saying that the chances of the other clubs are bad by any stretch. Fact of the matter is, you could go ahead and spit out 100 different projections for how the AL East will look at the end of the season, and I'll believe every single one of them. So any one of these 5 teams could win the AL East, and I wouldn't be blown away by that
Sure,
happening.
sure.
Would it be maybe a little bit surprising if the Rays pull it off? Yeah. Would it be a little bit surprising if Toronto pulls it off? Yeah. But would I be completely blown away? No, because I think that the AL East is back to being the AL East. It's a dogfight. It's going to be brutal. I will say, seeing the Tampa Bay Rays home uniforms with sunlight on them was a little weird to see. It was a little weird to
Yeah,
see.
yeah. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that. Playing in
It
the
was
minor
weird.
league
It was weird
ballpark.
seeing them in their like opening day introductions and everything as they're all on the baseline and the cameras in on them. I'm seeing their home whites just beaming, glowing because of the sunlight on them. I'm like, I'm not used to this. It was kind of weird, but I could get used to it.
So I got to know, what's the future of the Tampa Bay Rays? Because they were in talks to build a new stadium, actually in Tampa Bay, and now they're not doing that. They've got to fix this They got to fix this stadium in St. Pete. They're playing in Dunedin right now. They barely get fans to show up for playoff games. Nashville wants a baseball team. Montreal wants a baseball team.
Yeah.
Are the Tampa Bay Rays going to be the Tampa Bay Rays by 2028? Or are we looking at the Nashville Country Singers or the Montreal Expos 2.0? Like, what are we looking at here?
I'm going to make a very, very bold prediction here. And people could call me insane. I don't care because I go ahead and throw stuff out there, and I'm typically wrong anyway. I don't care. But I'm going to say that there will be an expansion in Major League Baseball before we see the Tampa Bay Rays go away.
I can see that because I know baseball wants 2 more baseball teams. Major League Baseball wants 2 more teams here. You're already moving Oakland to Vegas, and we've seen that that's just been an absolute nightmare. I don't think any professional sport wants teams moving out of their city. I just think it's a bad look. You're going to have a fan base perpetually angry at you. The whole thing with the Oakland Athletics, they're never going to be looked at as the same team ever again. They could go out and win 100. They could go to Vegas in 2028 and win 106 games their first year in Vegas, and it's not going to matter because they're not the Oakland A's. It's like moving the San Diego Chargers to LA. What the hell for? What the hell for? And if the stadium's not going to be ready, and the Athletics aren't going to be in Vegas until 2028, I think is the plan.
Yeah.
Why not just leave them? And I know that the owner of the Athletics is notoriously cheap, and that they wouldn't go in the ballpark for their team, and so they kind of had no choice, I guess. But but he sold the team. Why not just keep them in Oakland, and then expand, and put an expansion team in Vegas? Put an expansion team in Vegas, and then move those 2 dreadful teams. And when I say dreadful, dreadfully attended teams in Miami and Tampa Bay out of there. Because nobody in Florida cares about baseball. And they're not going to prove to me that they do care about baseball until I see them do it consistently for a full season, just like Brian Baker.
I like that. I like that boomerang there.
You're not going to prove to me that people in Florida give 2 craps about baseball until their fans start showing up to playoff games, and until the Marlins get back to playoff games, right? So, just move those 2 teams to Nashville and Montreal, keep the Athletics in Oakland, and then expand to Vegas and expand to wherever the hell else you want to expand to. North Carolina. People in North Carolina love baseball.
Yeah.
Move baseball to North Carolina.
Or at the very least, move 1 Florida team. Okay, Florida fans, you don't care that much about baseball. You don't deserve 2 teams. You get
Correct.
1.
Yeah, you get 1. And it's like, there are parts in the state that are 7 hours from each other. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
You get 1.
We're not the one that told you not to go to baseball games, but either way. The AL East, for me, getting back to the original point, the AL East, it's a dog. The Orioles had an opportunity this offseason to make themselves head and shoulders above the rest of the division, especially once you saw that Garrett Cole was going down for the year. especially when you learned that Luis Gil was going to miss the first half of the season. You had an opportunity to hit the ground running and get out in front of this thing. And the guys that you added, I believe Sagano's going to have a good year. I believe Charlie Morton will bounce back, but we don't need him just to bounce back. These guys have to come out there and replace Corbin Burns in the act, right? And bringing Kyle Gibson in, we couldn't wait to get rid of him the second half of 2023. Loved him, got a lot of double plays, but he was atrocious for the Orioles in August of 2023 to the point where he was left off the postseason. He threw 100. He almost threw 200 innings, and he was left off the postseason roster.
So he was on that.
Was he?
He came out of the bullpen in the last game.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then he was on.
But he was left off the postseason rotation.
Yes, he was left out of the postseason rotation. Dean Kramer is starting Game 3 of that rotation while all that stuff is going on over in Israel. His head's not in the game. That could have been Kyle Gibson's start if he had performed. Finishes the year with a 4.79 ERA, and now he's back. And look, I'm glad that the team's happy he's back. I'm glad that they love the guy, that he's going to post up in there. He's going to give you innings. And yeah, you can tell me till you're blue in the face, well, the Orioles didn't have an ace in 2023, and they won 101 games. Yeah, they didn't have an ace the first half, but you better believe that Kyle Bradish and Grayson Rodriguez were two aces at the top of that staff the second half of the year. They both had well below 3 ERAs the second half of the season. Kyle Bradish became the first Orioles starter since 1992 to make 30 starts and have a sub-3 ERA. So, the Orioles had this opportunity to go out and add to this rotation, to put themselves head and shoulders above not just the American League East, but every other team in the American League. It's wide open this year, and they didn't do enough, right? And now we're hearing that they're dangling Ryan Mountcastle to try and get themselves whatever they can get. Well, I mean, now you just have your everyday first baseman knowing that you're trying to trade him. For me, that's a bad look, and that's why when they did the whole take flight thing and they're doing their whole YouTube series this year, I couldn't get through the first 2 minutes. I ended up watching it eventually, but when they first posted it, Dylan, I couldn't watch it because you have all these pundits who are like, it's right there for the Orioles. Go be bold and make a move, and they didn't. Yeah. It starts off with Gunnar Henderson striking out to end the wild card series last year, and then all these guys talking about, look, this young core is so good. Help them. Go get this guy. And then what they gave us, it made me spinning mad to look at that. And the first time, it took me 3 weeks before I could watch it. It took me 2-3 weeks before I could watch it, And so, I can't justify not doing everything you can to make a team a World Series contender. And it's not, and that's the thing, Dylan. It's not good enough to just be one of the best teams in the American League. You haven't been to a World Series since 1983. You've got to be one of the best teams in baseball. Because whether it's the Phillies or the Braves or the Dodgers that you're going to have to face in the World Series, the class of baseball is in the National League. So just getting to a World Series, give yourself a chance to win a World Series. Because even if the Orioles somehow win 101 games with a makeshift starting rotation like they did 2 years ago, and they get to a World Series, you ain't beat the Dodgers. You could beat the Phillies, but probably not. You could beat the Braves, but probably not. You have to get to the World Series and have a fighter's chance of winning that thing. And right now, even if they get there, they don't. And you don't want to get there by default, just by being the best of mediocre class in 2025. Get there by being the class of 2025 and being better than every other team head and shoulders above. And they hadn't had that opportunity. They still could get there, but right now they're just not there.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. Basically how they entered spring training, I was still keeping my eyes peeled of okay, what kind of move can they still make here? Are they going to go trade for a Sonny Gray? Are they going to go snag Dylan Cease or Luis Castillo? Some kind of move there that would make my perception of the starting rotation entering the season a whole lot differently, And Corbin Burns did come out and say when MLB Network visited Arizona's camp for 30 clubs in 30 days, Corbin Burns did come out and say the Orioles were in there down to the wire until I ultimately chose Arizona. I'm like, okay, they were in it. And the additions they did make to the rotation ended up being for, I believe, more than what Corbin Burns got. Basically, once you combine all of them.
For the average annual value, yeah.
For one season's worth.
Yeah.
But to not turn around after losing out on Burns and going and making any significant addition after that, it stung. It stung a little bit. So seeing the opportunity you had in front of you and not taking advantage of that. You didn't come close on Blake Snell. Okay. Corbin Burns wanted to go home to Arizona. Okay. What's your plan C? Go forward, and the plan C can't be, we're just going to bring in a bunch of aging innings eaters and just build a whole rotation built out of number 3s, 4s, and 5s, and we're going to just wear this season down and we'll be good. No, you got to go out and add more. Now, they still have an opportunity to add more. Just because the season started doesn't mean they can't add. They still can, and maybe that's a point of dangling Mountcastle out there, which I will say, with how much the Orioles keep things close to the vest, and Mike Elias likes keeping things close to the vest, I don't know how much I'm buying the Mountcastle report.
Yeah.
Just because anything that ends up happening that the Orioles do, there was no rumor of it beforehand. Almost never. So for all we know, the Orioles are going to turn around and trade Kobe Mayo instead of Mountcastle, for all we know. I don't know. But I do think that this summer, one of Mountcastle or Mayo is going to be playing for a different ball club.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. I think Heston Kjerstad could be. I think Kjerstad could be because, look, if he's on your big league roster, he's getting one start in 4 games against 4 righties. You're facing 2 lefties against Boston. So you're going to tell me that he's going to get 2 starts in the season's first 7 games after you told the entire fan base he's going to get his opportunity this year? Where's the opportunity there? Like, where's and now here's the thing. The opportunity comes because of injuries. Because if Colton Cowser has to go on the IL, then Heston Kjerstad's in your lineup every night.
Yep.
Right? Because you're probably moving Tyler on the other left field. Mullins is staying in the center. And you maybe Kjerstad's playing in right field. Maybe Kjerstad's DH and Laureano's playing in right field. If Laureano's starting, then Kjerstad's still in the same situation because you're still going to play up. But against lefties, Kjerstad's probably in there because Mullins isn't going to start against lefties. It's going to be O'Neill, Laureano, whoever's playing right field, and Kjerstad. It's probably going to be Kjerstad in right field. Then you're going to have whoever's going to DH for you, probably add the DH and Sanchez catch. By the way, Gary Sanchez striking out to end the game. Was there any more predictable result there? I mean, the guy hasn't hit his weight since 2018.
No, but I do have to say he put up a better fight than I thought he was going to.
He did.
That was what, a 10-11 pitch at bat?
Yeah, it was a hell of an at bat.
Which 2 of the foul balls he hit looked like they were going to be close to home runs down the line. One to right field, one to left field. So he put up a better fight than I thought he would.
Yeah,
but back to your point. But back to your point about Kjerstad, and I think we were you and I, but like all Orioles fans were talking about the same exact thing last year with Colton Cowser. Because if you remember, Colton Cowser started off the season on the bench. Austin Hayes was your everyday left fielder. Austin Hayes gets hurt. Colton Cowser goes in and played so well to the point that when Austin Hayes came back from injury, sorry, you're a platoon guy now because Colton Cowser's going to be starting out there. And then Cowser ended up playing more games in the outfield than anybody else that season.
Yeah.
He even got the starts against the left-handers over Cedric Mullins, and they felt that Cowser could defend himself more against left-handers because Colton Cowser's kryptonite, as we've seen, has been changeups. You don't see too many left on left changeups. You see right on left changeups. So he could defend himself a little bit more against the fastballs and breaking balls from left-handers. So if Colton Cowser is hurt here, as you said, it's going to put Kjerstad right into that lineup and probably against left-handers too. And it's going to kind of be this is your opportunity. If you perform well while Cowser's on the shelf, we'll make sure that you have a lineup spot one way or another when he comes back. Now, if you don't take advantage of this, then you're probably going to go right back to playing 2 days a week.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. He's got to produce. but it's so hard, right? Because what we saw last year, Jackson Holiday had a 3 strikeout game and then he got sent down, right? Heston Kjerstad had a 3 strikeout game. He didn't play for the week, right? So as soon as these guys get a start and they strike out 3 times in a game, which happens to every hitter at some point,
yeah,
they're back riding behind. They're getting demoted. You've got to give this guy 8, 9, 10 games in a row to get out there. And maybe it's not 8, 9, 10 games in a row, but maybe it's if you play 7 games in a week, he's playing 5. You've got to give this guy plenty of run. Give him an opportunity to get comfortable and not have to look over his shoulder on every at bat. To know, I'm going to be in that starting lineup. If Kowser has to go on the IL, Kjerstad's going to be in the lineup every day, and it's his opportunity. He cannot squander it.
And as crazy as it is, if Kowser has to go on the IL, that could very well save Jorge Mateo's roster spot.
Yeah, that dude just
well, I'm just saying, because who's the corresponding move when Gunnar comes back? You either have to DFA Mateo, or you're looking at optioning either Kjerstad or Holiday. I don't know, but
you're not optioning Holiday.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though, is that you really don't have many options to look at when it's who gets the axe cut on him when Gunnar comes back. And right now, I had to slip that in there. And it's either DFA.
AJ wants his shirt.
I like it. Let's whip that up.
It can just be a silhouette of your beard and your hands holding an axe. And it just says, cut the axe.
I'll wear it every day.
You should.
But,
hey, is Austin Hayes hurt?
Is water wet?
Top story. Austin Hayes placed on the injured list with calf strain. That was 3 weeks ago. He's expected back on the Reds' first road trip. That poor SOB. He had a great spring, and then he gets hurt again. Anyway, not to interrupt you.
No, you're good. You're good. No, but it's a tough roster decision because, are the Orioles really going to DFA Jorge Mateo in April?
Because Brandon Hyde absolutely. You know what, though?
That's what I'm saying.
They DFA'd Ryan McKenna last year. They did it to Ryan McKenna. I thought that dude was going to retire after a 15-year career as a 4th outfielder for the Baltimore Orioles.
But Ryan McKenna also wasn't making. What's Mateo making? $3 million right now to be a utility infielder?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, are they really going to DFA Mateo? I feel like they're going to option Kjerstad. But if Kowser's on the IL, that's basically your corresponding move right there.
Right, exactly.
It's weird how sometimes these things shake out.
They always do, though. They always do. Something always happens. But just like somehow, some way, no matter what, Jorge Mateo finds himself in everyday playing time for the Baltimore Orioles. No matter what, he wasn't even a Gold Glove finalist in 2022, despite being. He won the Fielding Bible Award at shortstop.
Yes.
Then the next year, it's like, look, he can't play shortstop every day. It's Gunner's job. If Gunner played half the time at third, half the time at shortstop, he still found a way to play over 100 games, right? Then last year, he's starting at second base every day until he bent his arm backwards, running into Gunnar Henderson. And now Gunner is like, you know what? I feel bad, man. I'm going to strain my lat teres muscle or whatever, my intercostal muscle in the right side of my ribs. I'm going to do that for you to repay you for the games that I cost you.
And I'm going to talk to Colton, and he's going to go ahead and dive into first base before I come back to make sure that you stay on this roster.
Yeah, exactly. It's somehow, some way, Jorge Mateo, he's like the herpes of Baltimore Orioles players. He just does not go away.
And here's the thing.
Oh, my God.
I love
blasted for that at some point.
Just a little bit. I love Jorge Mateo for what he can bring off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a matter if you have that flexibility on the bench or not. And right now the Orioles don't. And a big reason why they don't is because they're rostering 2 first basemen right now in Mountcastle and O'Hearn that really can't play anywhere else.
Yeah.
That kind of eliminates roster flexibility that you have. So when you have the flexibility to do so, it is awesome to have a guy like Jorge Mateo's speed and defensive capabilities on your bench. But right now the Orioles just don't have that luxury once Gunnar comes back if Kowser's healthy.
You know what is going to be the craziest thing? The Orioles have all of these outfielders, all these good defensive outfielders, and we're going to see if Kowser's hurt. Ryan O'Hearn will start in left or right field at some point. Ryan O'Hearn will start.
And Mateo will be on the other side.
Yeah. The Mateo will be playing center field against the lefty. Somehow Mateo will be playing center field, and Ryan O'Hearn will be playing right field because they're going to trust him over Hassan Kjerstad. Like, it's going to be the coup de grace of the year. Me saying that Ryan O'Hearn doesn't have a spot on this roster, and yet look, he's hitting well. He's hit the ground running this season. He's off to a hot start. He has 4 batted balls. We saw the stat today of 5 batted balls over 98 miles an hour that have been outs, and he still has 6 hits this year.
Yeah,
it's crazy. He's off to a great start, and we're still. I said he shouldn't be on the roster, and somehow he's going to be starting in the outfield against the Red Sox at some point. Watch, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
All right, today's show has been brought to you by County Sports Zone. Find every score from every high school sporting event all year long at countysports.zone. Proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Dillon, the first iteration of TTR, Take the Rake. Since you were gracious enough to hop in with me on the show today, I will allow you to pick first. Take the Rake. For those of you new to the show, or if you just want a friendly reminder, Take the Rake, we each get to pick one player offensively for the Orioles who we think is going to have the best week. And it's for every game between now and the show next Sunday evening at 5 p.m. And the only stipulation, if, say, you picked Jordan Westburg today, you can't pick Jordan Westburg the next time that you play. That's the only rule. Otherwise, have at it.
Does that apply to Zach when he comes back next week? He can't pick who I picked?
No, he can. He can pick who you pick. Well, that's a great question. I think that's how we did it before. I think that's all we've always done. So Jordan Westburg, if you pick Jordan Westburg, Westburg's off the table for Zach.
Right.
Because who knows when you'll be back? It could be a month until you're back on the show, and we're gonna.
Who knows?
You know what I mean? So.
Yep. Oh, this is a tough one. I wish I knew what was going on with Colton first, but
Let's see. Let me check the twits. I'll do this for you. I guess that's just what I'm going to call it.
I know Hyde said that it was getting checked out as he was talking to reporters.
Yeah, that's the only update that I have. Sagano cramping in both hands. Let's see. By the way, how about the Orioles moving up opening day from 3:05 to 2:35? Does a half an hour earlier start really do much if rain's coming?
They're trying everything they can, I suppose. So we'll see.
Yeah. I can't find anything on Cal's right now.
So okay.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to stay away from those ones. Go ahead and give me Adley. I'll take Adley.
Ooh. Dillon takes Adley. All right. Don't know what Cows was doing. I would have picked him anyway. Westburg, was he sick or is he hurt? Is he sick or is he hurt? That's the question.
Not sure. I mean, Hyde did say that he expected Westburg back in the lineup tomorrow.
So, which makes me think he was sick. Makes me think he was sick. You know what? Give me this. No. Give me Jackson.
Oh.
Give me Jackson Holiday. That dude's gonna get hot at some point.
Home opener homer?
Home opener homer. Maybe. Yeah. Give me Holiday. We will see how the cards fall next Sunday for sure. We're going to get into some viewer interaction here. AJ wants to know, speaking of Cuban defectors, how is the guy we traded to the Cardinals from Flaherty doing? Cesar Prieto. Big spring.
Yes.
He slashed 360, 407, 720, hit 1127 OPS this spring. 9 for 25 in 20 games. Big spring for them. He ended up playing for Memphis, but after that, he hasn't debuted at the big league level yet. He's 26 years old. Spent each of the last 2.5 years each of the last 2 seasons at AAA. He hit 270 with a 701 OPS in Memphis in 2023. And then last year at AAA, he hit 279 with a 763 OPS, 14 home runs, 56 RBI, 35 doubles. 35 doubles in 129 games, not too bad.
Yeah.
This year, he is 0 for 4 in 1 game for Memphis, and probably played today, too.
Still crazy that he hasn't made his debut yet, though.
Hasn't made his debut, especially like he can play for the Cardinals, but he plays second base and that's it, or he's a DH. He doesn't steal, but he's not a big stolen base guy, not a huge power guy, but he puts the bat on the ball and he doesn't strike out. He does not strike out. He does a good job. It also doesn't walk. Doesn't strike out, but he puts the bat on the ball, right? So that's
Sounds
a guy.
Sounds like
I was about to say that's like Hanser Alberto, but I think he's a better hitter than Hanser Alberto. Yeah. So that's how he's doing right now. AJ also says, as Dillon said before, let Baker bake against the Jays these 2 series, and then cut the axe, baby. Cut the axe. It's coming on. I don't know. I need a full season. I'm going to stick to it. I will not trust Brian Baker until opening day 2026. And he's going to have like a 1.5 ERA the first half of this year for me to start believing in Brian Baker. When he gave up that dunk, I just heard Brett Hollander saying, there's a swing and a high drive into left field, and I'm just like, there's Brian Baker, but it's a double off the wall, and then he strikes out the next 2 guys. Like, that's Brian Baker.
Yep. And I was sitting there like thinking in my head, I'm like, is there anything more Brian Baker like than to completely freeze Vlad Guerrero Jr. on a fastball in the inside corner, freeze Santander on a backdoor slider, and then come back, give up a double off the wall to Springer, and then let's see what else with the bottom of the Jays order can do against him. Mm-hmm. And then he ended up striking out those guys, so it was all was well. I'm like, but would there have been anything more like Brian Baker than to go ahead and strike out the top guys in the order and then give up everything else to everybody else?
Right, exactly. Brian freaking Baker. Daniel Pitts at Toronto corrected himself, said it is a thumb for Max Scherzer, which makes sense. So maybe it's just a 15-day stint for him. He can get that right. But at 41 years old, I can tell you from experience that Max Scherzer looks, in my opinion, he and Verlander look significantly older than me, and with the same age. Like I'll be 41 in September. How are Max Scherzer and I the same freaking age? How is that a thing?
It's the different eyes.
Yeah, it's gotta be looking like a Siberian husky. Derek Dennis Vance says, Bob Vance Refrigeration says, ownership isn't in it for the fans. You are absolutely right. I think that
they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be.
Like, and that's the thing that we struggle with, right? Because you should care what the fans think, but not so much that it affects your decisions, right?
Yeah.
Like the fans are the reason that baseball is around.
Yes.
So, and I don't think that people should forget that. But if you operate based on what the fans think, you're not going to have it, right?
Yep. And that actually takes me back to when Jose Bautista was a free agent after his time in Toronto, and I was banging the table that the Orioles should sign Jose Bautista.
Nope.
And Dan Duquette said to reporters when he was asked, would you have interest in signing Jose Bautista? And he said, no, because I don't think our fans would like that very much. I'm like, okay, if you would have just told me no for any other reason, go right ahead. But don't tell me no because the fan base wouldn't like it.
Well, I think that he used as an excuse because they weren't going to let him spend the money that it was going to take to get Jose Bautista. But I was totally okay with it. I hate Jose Bautista. Like, he is arguably my most hated player in the history of baseball. I absolutely despise that man. I despise him with a fire that burns deep within my soul. I despise Jose Bautista. I think he's a jackass. And so, like, if he had ever he did play for the Baltimore Orioles, and he sucked.
Yes, he did.
He sucked.
Yes,
and so now, and then he became this 50 homer a year guy with the Blue Jays, backflipping and being at Camden Yards, catching the final out in left field and pretending to throw it to the fan and putting it in his back pocket. You can go F yourself right off a bridge, you son of a. Anyway, I hate.
I'm okay with Bautista.
No,
I'm okay with him.
He can get effed and die. I hate Jose Bautista. I don't want him to die. I don't actually want him to die. But
yeah, I will say, people have told me I have a thing for liking ball players that nobody else likes. I like Jose Bautista. I like Nick Swisher. I like AJ Pierzynski. I liked all those guys when they were playing, and everybody was like, "You were psychotic."
oh man. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's show. Dillon Atkinson will never be on this show again. Like Jose Bautista and Nick Swisher. No, the show's not over yet. We're getting there. But we're on our – you just said two of the players I hate the most in my entire life. You just said you like them. AJ Pierzynski, I don't give two craps about him. I'll never forget, though. I keep hiding this because I want to talk about it and not just have to linger up to the quote or the comment. But I'll never forget the Orioles playing the Red Sox, and Nick Markakis is out in right field, and there's a fly ball hit by A.J. Pierzynski out to the right field wall. And Markakis runs back, and he goes, and Thorne is like, Pierzynski sends one deep into right field, and Markakis is back. He leaps up, and he goes, no! He caught it! And I was like, who are you broadcasting for, man? What do you mean, no? He caught it. Like, he sounded so defeated. No, he caught it. Like, yeah, that's good. You just robbed A.J. Pierzynski of a home run. Like, that's awesome. But he was very dejected. I do miss Gary. That drunk bastard. Daniel Pitt.
Hole says.
Oh, my God. There was another time. God, sorry, Daniel. There's another game. It was when the Orioles were terrible, and I think it was 2019. No. It was 20. It was 2019 because I wasn't living at the house in Forest Hill yet, and he was still because he didn't broadcast games until 2020.
Right.
They were playing the Angels, and they get out of the inning with just trailing by 2 runs, and he was trying to say that the Orioles are in striking distance, but then he tried to say hitting distance, but he combined them. And part of my language, I'm just going to say it. He says as they're going to commercial, the Orioles are within shitting distance. He actually said that. I have that recording on my phone somewhere. He said that. I'm not joking. And it's just like, man, that's up there with Pujols is not retired. It was when he said that, I was like, oh my God, I had to rewind it and record that he said that. It was incredible. Anyway, Daniel Pitts, our fan base freaks out over every single game. Everyone needs to chill a bit. Look,
you need to chill.
Yeah. No, we're all going to start freaking out if the Orioles lose a couple of games, or if they have a prolonged offensive slump, or they have 3 or 4 games a week where they go 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position like they did today. It's too early in the year to freak out over every game. Yeah. You know, Toronto can make a claim to being at the top of the division. They're a good baseball team. Despite what people want to believe, they are a good baseball team. The Orioles split without their best player and without their second best starting pitcher, maybe their best starting pitcher. They managed to split that series. So, I mean, Dean Kramer gave up 5 runs. The Orioles won that ball game. You know, Charlie Morton was garbage. Sagano came out after the 4th inning, and the Orioles still won 2 ball games up in Toronto. Like, they could have been a lot worse.
If it really, no matter where you go, if you go on the road for a 4-game series and you split that series, you're okay.
Yeah. Now, if they come home and they lose 2 or 3 of the Red Sox, they're going to be a little upset. But you know,
exactly.
But
we won't talk about that.
Yeah, win tomorrow, and you put yourself in Essing distance. Jack Blake, let's go Jack Black. Westy should have started. Period. Well, but I mean, if he's sick, if he's like violently throwing up, or maybe his back's acting up, you know. Like I said, the only excuse is an injury or an illness. You know, that's the only excuse. Daniel Pitts, Cedric already stood head first in the bag of the season. He beat the throw, but I agree it's not smart. He was going to beat it regardless.
He actually did feet first.
Yeah, that was feet first. But he was going to beat it
and he scared the crap out of me on that because it looked like he jammed up his ankle on that.
It did look like he jammed up his ankle. Daniel says, Mullins and Mountcastle are almost certainly being traded at the trade deadline, if not before. I just hope we get a decent return for them. Like, look. We can all be upset about that Trevor Rogers trade last year, but other than that, Mike Elias usually gets good value for his trades for the most part. He got Kyle Bradish for amongst 4 pitchers for Dylan Bundy. You know?
And really, I think Mike Elias on that trade for Trevor Rogers, he saw the potential value in Rogers, and we've seen what he can be. And I have the guys on my staff that can fix him, maybe not this year, but next year. And who knows if that can ever come to fruition, because Rogers still has a couple more years of club control and all that. But it's not one that's going to make us thrilled in any way when we want to see trades made for a postseason run now. So I think Elias kind of had his developer's hat on in that mindset of, I've always had my eye on Trevor Rogers. I like this guy, and I think he has the tools, and that we have the staff to make him what he needs to be eventually. And that's where his mindset was coming from, and that wasn't gelling with the fan base whatsoever, because all the fan base wants to see, and you and I want to see, are moves made to help us in October now.
Right. Exactly. And here's the other thing that you have to look at. Connor Norby was never going to play for the Orioles.
No.
Right? And I'm not justifying the trade. I was just pissed as anybody. I went on a 5-minute rant on social media or a live video after they made that trade. The Orioles needed a right-handed bat desperately down the stretch last year. And Connor Norby went to the Marlins, he immediately started hitting. Now, look, he finished the season very slowly, but he immediately started hitting there when the Orioles needed right-handed power. You know what I mean?
And Westberg got hurt immediately after Norby was traded.
Exactly. Westberg's hand was broken on July 31st. It was literally Norby got traded on the 30th, and Westberg had his hand broken on the 31st.
Yeah.
It was literally the next day. And so the Orioles couldn't have foreseen that, not without a crystal ball, And so, and Kyle Stowers, he strikes out 50% of the time. Now Stowers is off to a hot start right now. He's 4 for 12 with 2 RBI, including a walk-off RBI single in the first game of the season. So he's off to a good start for the Marlins. Norby is out for 4 weeks with a lat strain.
Both of them would be in Norfolk right now.
They would not be starting for the
Neither one of them would even be on the run.
Norby would probably be here if he wasn't injured because of the gutter injury. Norby would probably be here. Right? I think he'd be here. I think they would have given Mateo some time to rehab alongside Gunnar. And you'd see Jackson at shortstop, and you would see Norby at second base. I think that's what you would see. But that's short-lived because Gunnar, knock on wood, is probably coming back on Thursday. Right? So, Daniel Pitts. Mayo hit his first home run today, which also was his first hit of the season. He had 2 singles also later in the game. So 3 hits today, including a 2-run homer. He's ready. Call him up. Daniel says, doesn't mean anything, but any thoughts on Gunnar using Monthly Crew kickstart my heart as his walk-up in Norfolk and not Gwen Stefani in the sweet skate. Maybe he feels – apparently he was going back and forth between the two of them. He couldn't make a decision. I guess he made the decision on kickstart my heart. Here's the thing. The Orioles were forced into doing by the fans, they were forced into doing the waterworks stuff last year. And it's been a huge hit. I like the fishing thing that they're doing this year so far. The bike handle thing was just so terrible last year that they had to go back to the waterworks thing. And fishing, at least it keeps with the water theme. You know what I mean? But all those guys like to fish together. But they were forced into doing a celebration that they hadn't planned on doing for a second time. Maybe the way that last season ended, the way that he failed in the biggest moments down the stretch for the team when they needed him to really come through, maybe he wants a fresh start. And you say, kickstart my heart. You know what I mean? Maybe it's he's also a dude. And, we can love Sweet Escape as much as we want. Like, a guy like Gunnar, does he really want to walk up to Gwen Stefani, the Sweet Escape? Does he really
it's pretty catchy.
It is catchy. But so is Kickstart My Heart. So, I don't care. As long as Gunnar hits 280+ with 30+ home runs and plays a Gold Glove caliber shortstop, and make no mistake about it, I think he is a Gold Glove shortstop. A Gold Glove caliber shortstop, despite the errors last year. As long as he plays good baseball and helps the Orioles win the American League East or get back to the playoffs at a minimum, he could come up to a song sung by Jose Bautista with Nick Swisher playing the guitar. I don't care. Daniel, I don't think any way Hyde has Kelsey play tomorrow with thumb. Who do you think would be the leadoff?
Could be Mullins, could be Westberg.
I mean, if Westbrook's going to play, but I think they want Westbrook in the middle of the order. I think. It could be Hadley. It could be O'Hearn.
No, they're facing a lefty tomorrow on opening day. Could be anyone really, but you're going to see the right. You're going to see the righty heavy lineup from the Orioles on the home opener. You're going to see Ramon Laureano in the starting lineup tomorrow.
Yep, and you're going to see Jorge Mateo batting leadoff and playing shortstop for the Orioles. He's going to be in the lineup. He's going to be in the lineup in some way, somehow tomorrow. Daniel Quinn says, AAA debut for Norfolk. Raul Alcantara struck out 7 batters with ratings without allowing an earned run. He induced 11 swings and misses. Hey, look, that's awesome. Give me the other Alcantara. Give me the other Alcantara.
Can we trade him for Sandy?
Right? Yeah, can we trade Raul Alcantara? Well, we'll trade you Alcantaras. Let's do this. Look, that's awesome, Dan. Thank you for the info on Alcantara. You know, the Orioles have a lot of under the radar pitching prospects in their organization right now. So I'm hopeful that they have guys. The cover was pretty bare until a couple of years ago. I'm hopeful they can get some guys up here who can get quality big league hitters out on a consistent basis. D. Mateo needs to be the guy that is corresponding to for Gunnar coming back. Like, look, whenever I see him playing, I know he's not going to. He comes up to the plate, and I'm like, when he came up to the plate today with Mullins on first base, I was like, please just surprise me. Please just surprise me. Hit one down the line or something like that. Just surprise me. Be the guy that you were in April of 2020, 2023. Yeah. Please just surprise me. Couldn't do it. But Daniel, Paul, what do you think is DFA when Gunnar comes back, or what do you think the corresponding move is? Do they send Kershaw back down? It all depends on Kowser. If Kowser has to go on the IL, Kershaw's safe, and Kowser's a corresponding move. If Kowser is good to play, he only has to miss a game or two, it's probably Kershaw's.
It's either option Kershaw's or DFA Mateo. Those are your only two options, really.
Right. Ramon Arias has more than proved his value to this team.
Yeah, Arias is staying, and he's the only other guy who can play third base, unless you were to somehow make it so that Gunnar Henderson plays third base when Westbrook's not there, which they're not going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. AJ says, I want Kershaw to stay and play right field. He has a tough cookie coming out of endocarditis. It's myocarditis. But, yeah, I just want to see the guy get an opportunity to swing a baseball bat at the big league level for more than 2 games in a row. Like, the fact that they faced 4 righties, they had an injury, they had opportunities to pinch hit in both games that they lost, and Kershaw could only get 1 start, 1 pinch hit appearance, and 1 defensive replacement appearance on opening day. Like, how did that guy not start 2 games in the series? He had a productive at bat yesterday. He had a sacrifice fly. Like, give me Heston Kershaw playing every day for a couple of weeks. Give me 2 to 3 weeks. Give me a month of it.
At the very least, just playing against right-handers, because right-handers is 2/3 of the league. So you're telling me Kershaw's getting 2/3 playing time? Works for me. Like,
yeah, exactly. AJ says, but Hyde never let Kershaw because he put so much emphasis on defense and doesn't care about the bats. It's also why I agree with Dillon. They won't trade Malley because his first base defense is so good, even though his bat is so
That's what you said, Paul, not me.
Yeah, that is what I said. But you said that you wouldn't be surprised if they're talking about trading Mountcastle as a big man, get a trade. So I think that's maybe what he's alluding to. But yeah, like, it's so weird to me that Brandon Hyde likes the dudes that he likes. Adam Frazier playing every day, Ruth Odor playing every day, Ryan McKenna being a 4th outfielder on his team when he's was clearly the worst player on the roster.
I feel like
it's crazy.
I feel like Buck was the same way, and I think a lot of managers are the same way. Really, though, is like they kind of have their guys that they stick with. That every fan base is like, why are you still here? And the manager's just like, he's my guy. Like,
yeah, I like Ryan Flaherty. Although I don't know, I didn't love Ryan Flaherty, but I didn't hate him either. You know, like,
he served the purpose defensively. He played a pretty good second and third base. So,
and he can put the ball in the ballpark. Right? He had 10 home runs 1 year as a reserve.
Yeah,
you know, Daniel says if Mateo's put on waivers, there's not a chance that some team doesn't select him. See you, man.
Yeah.
See you. You know, I don't care that he's on the roster. I don't care if he's not on the roster. It's not going to hurt my feelings if he's gone. It is going to hurt my feelings if he somehow plays 2 out of every 3
Oh, yeah.
games. Stephen Wingren, the season is going to be weird. Either we're going to run away with any given name or get ground down with any given game or get ground down by any pitcher.
That's baseball.
Yeah, baseball. That's baseball. Baseball. Steven says the baseball industry, at least according to Ken Rosenthal, certainly doesn't believe in Elias anymore as a GM. I mean, he didn't go out. I mean, there's a lot of people that are spending money that's not theirs, right? And he didn't go out and sign. I said I was out on Elias when they went to the winter meetings, and every player I could have possibly wanted aside from Tyler O'Neill went off the board, and they were guys that could help people with us, and they just stood pat and ended up with 3 guys at 35 years old plus before the end of spring training when they got another guy in Kyle Gibson. Like I said, I was all the way up on Elias, and I'm not fully back in on him. I've got to see him make a trade for like Eflin was a good fit. He's been awesome for the Orioles, but I got to see him make a trade.
Yeah.
I got to see him bring in somebody that's going to make this team a legitimate World Series contender. Because as much as I love the Baltimore Orioles, they are not a legitimate World Series contender right now. They're a legitimate postseason contender. They're not going to go to the World Series as their roster is currently constructed. And he's got to show me that he's aware of that and make the right moves to get them there. Again, the AL East and the AL in general is there for the taking, and they're not that far away.
Yep.
AJ, Guns N' Roses for Gunner. Stephen Wingren, AC/DC for Gunner. And I think that's a good place to stop. I don't care. Like I said, it could be Jose Bautista on lead vocals with Nick Swisher playing guitar and drums. I don't care as long as Gunner hits between 280 and 300 and drives in a ton of runs and plays good shortstop defense. That's all I think about. Dylan, anything you want to say? Leave us with. Are you going to opening day tomorrow?
I'm not going to opening day tomorrow, but let's just bring home a dub. That's it. Bring home a dub.
Yeah. Go get that win. I will be there tomorrow. We haven't bought our tickets yet, but that doesn't mean we won't. Well, so here's what happened. My buddy Josh presented. We were on the golf course 2 weeks ago, and he was like, "Hey, I have a friend who said in early February he was down to go. Now he's balking at it. I might have a free ticket for him." So I go home. I tell the wife, I'm like, I asked her mother-in-law, can she pick up Lily from daycare so I can go to opening day? And my wife says, actually, I knew you'd end up going, so I took off on opening day. So then my mother-in-law says, well, then why don't you two go to opening day, and I'll just pick up Lily from daycare. And my wife's like, I'll consider it. I said, don't consider it. Just do it. Let's go. We're going. And so now we haven't bought tickets yet, but we will. I wanted to wait till last week because I got playoff tickets for $40 last year, the day up. So I'm waiting to see if I can get some cheaper tickets. Otherwise, either way, we're going to the game tomorrow. We will be there. We'll be 18 consecutive opening days for your board.
Congrats, man.
All right. With that, thank you. AJ says, go get that dub. I'm going to go get it for you. Even if I have to come out of the bullpen and pitch for the Baltimore Orioles tomorrow, I'm going to go get
Paul,
that
I'm
dub
cutting
for you.
Paul, no, don't do that. I'm cutting the axe right there.
Cut the axe. Cut the axe. All right. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you, we don't have a show. Thank you to Dillon Atkinson. Without you, we probably don't have a show today. Thank you to all of our lawyers, all our loyal listeners, viewers, fans. Without you, we will 100% do not.
Some may be lawyers. We don't know.
Some of you could be lawyers.